Yo, this is the ancient Texan. Noticed I just got a shave, cut the beard way back, got my hair cut, look almost clean, like I'm clean cut. Not quite. Okay, there's a lot of talk about uh, global warming, climate change, and Democrats got in power, and we're going to do all this new stuff. Um, I think we're kidding ourselves. The whole world is kidding themselves. They're making pledges about all they're going to do, and we're not going to go past 1.5 degrees C. But let's look at how we're doing. Who's the biggest power generator in the world? China. We're number two country. How's China doing? 65% of their power comes from coal. They are still building coal plants. They've made a pledge that they're going to cut like half of their power generation or something by 2030. It's not going to happen. They get a lot of their power right now from hydro plants. But guess what? Global warming is increasing the temperature. The amount of desert they have in China is expanding. Their water supply is going down. Hydro production, power from hydro is going down. Their economy is coming back from the pandemic, is starting to boom just like ours. Guess what? They need more power. They're not that good at building nuclear power plants. Nuclear power plants take longer to build. What are they going to build? They're going to build coal power plants. Okay, let's look at India, the second biggest country, not biggest economy, however. How are they doing? Where do they get most of their power? Coal. Are they stopping building coal power plants? Nope. How's the US doing? We still make about 20 tons of coal per person. 20 we consume 20 tons. Our CO2 emissions equivalent to 20 tons each person. A little bit down, not much. It's coming back up after the pandemic. We got a little bump there from the pandemic. Is anybody doing good? Maybe we could look to see what someone is actually having success at lowering their CO2 emissions. You have places like Costa Rica that have like 2 tons of, of CO2, but we're not willing to accept, a nice leisurely lifestyle where we don't consume a lot of goods and services. And, we have universal education and hospitalization, but we don't have a lot of, you know, luxuries. We just have, food and shelter and take care of everybody, but we don't have all the stuff that we've got here in America. They're doing good, but we're obviously not willing to live like that. Most industrial countries are doing, like Saudis and the rich, Middle East countries are putting out the same order of magnitude as we are. 20 tons, burning 20 tons of coal per person. We're someone that's doing okay. France. How the hell are they doing it? They're like 5 tons of coal per person. It's not magic. It's nuclear power. It is that simple. Except in America, we've decided that nuclear power is always bad. We're not willing to learn from past mistakes, make corrections, and move on. It's kind of like, you know, communism is bad, Cuba is bad. We're gonna not have anything to do with Cuba. That's gonna fix something somewhere. The same kind of mentality as the war on drugs. It's the way it is and the way it always shall be. If you want to solve global warming, you got to rethink things and stay open. There's several kind of new power plants. We used to lead the world in nuclear power. Not so much anymore. Our expertise is going away. We'd have to hire somebody else to build our nuclear power plants. And it takes 10, 15 years probably to get something like that permitted, maybe 20 years. We're going to miss the boat. There's the traditional nuclear power plants, which safety-wise have really improved. But they generate a waste product that has like 100,000 year half-life. And the argument's always made that, we can engineer something for 10,000 years. But it's hard to engineer. It's hard to know what's going to happen 100,000 years out in the future, which is true. But you engineer it 10,000 years at a time, it's still a very weak argument for not using nuclear. And we don't approve any facility for storing it, like there's some caverns out in Mexico that they've, have dug out and everything, but they can't, states that would have to have rail go through their state to get the nuclear power there. None of this, what's good for the whole. They're afraid of spilling it on the way, which is a concern, but you want to solve global warming or not. But then there's something called a thorium reactor. Uses thorium decay instead of uranium-235. Its half-life of the waste products is 300 years. 300 years is doable, very doable. Has any of these been built? No. They're all on the drawing board, and they've had kind of little pilot facilities built back in the 60s, I think. They have something called molten salt. I'm using that. Well, can't say where I'm using it. Research. Molten salt. For instance, if you take table salt and heat it up, don't think you can get it quite hot enough on your stove, but you heat it up hot enough and it turns into a liquid. Not putting water in it, no water. It just turns into a liquid. Well, that can be used for heat transfer. You can build reactors instead of using this high pressure steam that can, rupture and spread radiation. You use molten salt. That's R&D. It's a risk. It's something that is being done, and other people are starting to explore this technology. Are we doing the R&D to make that usable in nuclear power? Nope. We already decided it can't be done. That is called engineering by the common man. Engineering by public opinion instead of engineering by experts. So we have thorium reactors, and they can be made smaller. You can have local disposal, engineer something to last for 300 years, and you're out of the woods. You also have a reactor that Bill Gates has been trying to promote, spend a lot of his money on, where you take the waste that we now have coming out of our current nuclear reactors all over the world. You take that and you build a big ass hole in the ground, and then you build a collection system for heat, like heat collectors all the way down. You get the nuclear reactor started at the top, and then it gradually burns itself down in the earth. You make a hole big enough, it takes 100 years. And for 100 years, it makes power. Bill Gates has done all the engineering he can do without permission to build the reactor. He had permission to build it in China and had the funding. Trump stopped it. But you don't see Biden restarting it. So right now, let's look how we're doing in Congress, the Democrats. Well, Manchin won't vote for ending the filibuster in the Senate. So it means you need 60 people to pass something in the Senate. Are you going to pass anything to do with global warming, climate change? Nope. It's not going to happen. And even if they did, what they're passing has the basic concept that the government is going to find the solution for global warming, is going to spend the money and promote solutions. Like one of the things is we're going to build charging stations all around the world for electric, all around the US for electric vehicles. That's great. Guess who's already doing that? Tesla, private market. We're going to promote electric cars. Who's already doing that? Tesla, private industry. All the car manufacturers are getting on board. But that fundamentally doesn't change anything if you don't change where the electricity is coming from. What are we doing about that? We're going to build more solar power plants. Good, good. We're going to build more wind farms. Good. We won't get the job done. We can't build them fast enough. The amount of the scope of that is huge. And you got to build it not only for yourself, you got to lead the world, and you got to get the whole world going that way. You just can't. We're just not going to make it. You can look at the data. We're not doing good. And I see no signs. All this we're going to do is all forecasted. We're going to do something. But if you look at the actual data, very few places are doing anything. And the only places that are doing anything rely on nuclear power. That's not completely true. There are like Denmark's got 45% of their power is coming from wind. They're on the ocean, and they got a lot of wind power going on. And we can fill the skies with windmills, but you just can't build them fast enough, and you can't fill up the sky fast enough with wind to make it happen. So, we're cutting back on oil and gas and coal. No, we're not. 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 we're promising to do all of that stuff, but we're not actually doing it because the plan is fundamentally unsound. Now, I think there's one way we could do it is, and you're probably tired of hearing me say this, but a carbon tax and let the market figure out how to do it. Crank up the, put a carbon tax in instead of income tax. What a concept. And then that's regressive. I mean, it hits poor people more. So you have to subsidize power. You have to make, the first X thousand gallons tax free to a person. Maybe you give them back a credit on their credit card for, purchases of gas. You get so many gallons free, and then everybody's taxed. Do the same thing with power. You get your home heated the first, you have a standard for efficiency, and if you meet that standard for efficiency, you get your power subsidized, so you take care of the poor people. Above that amount, you all pay. The market can figure it out really fast. What is being figured out is by guys like people like Tesla that are changing the world, changing minds. I mean, all the other auto companies are starting to step in line and build and chase Tesla. But are we making it with global warming? No, we're just kidding ourselves. We are dead set against nuclear power, any form or shape. And as far as I see it, that's the only option we've got in my lifetime, in your lifetime. So we got one solution that's sitting there ready to go. It can be in place. Start building now. 5 years from now, we could have a dozen nuclear power plants, and we could be going the other direction with CO2. We could be helping India, China build nuclear power plants. It actually would be more affordable than what we're doing, lower cost, and cut CO2 emissions. And yet, we don't do it. We got France doing it, so it's doable. 75% of the energy in France comes from nuclear power. Their emissions are 1/4 of the US emissions. Got the data, we got the examples, we got the technology. All we don't have are rational human beings to look at the facts and what's happening. Anyway, as an engineer, watching the way we solve technical problems, I find very frustrating. We have a lot of opinions about what's good or bad, but we're totally incapable of trade-offs. Everything has a trade-off. Yeah, I'd like there to be something else than nuclear power. But if I have to pick between global warming, climate change, or nuclear power, how the hell is that a hard decision? Anyway, this is the ancient Texan, an old engineer, frustrated by our policy decisions. Well, I'm wishing you a happy 4th. And I hope the next generation learns how to turn the thermostat down in this world, because this generation is not making any progress at all. This is the Ancient Texan. Have a good one.